Welcome from my side too. Okay, working, perfect. Thanks for the nice welcome, and as you already see, I have a very straightforward problem for you guys. My talk is integrating smartphone apps into the driving experiences, and we saw a lot of things about future problems here and about things that are going to happen in 20 years, and I'm going to talk with you about something that we actually have right now and a problem we're solving right now. So let me give you a quick overview about the talk I'm going to give you. So we're going to have an introduction, and I'm going to show you what the problem is we're trying to solve. And why we have to solve it actually, and then we're going to show you how we solve it at Ford and how we want to solve it for the automotive industry and not only for Ford. So going to the introduction, and I'm sure I don't need to lose too many words about this, but obviously everybody has a smartphone, everybody uses apps, and more people also use these apps while driving. Now let's say you're a customer of Spotify and you have your favorite playlists, and on a long drive actually your playlist runs out, music stops, you have to change your playlist. How do you do that? Obviously most of the people would take out their phone, go into the app and change the playlist. This is something which is obviously not very safe while driving and also not very legal in most countries. So you shouldn't do that, and how you should do that is actually the thing what we are going to show you. A couple of stats about apps, and just to, I'm sure I don't have to tell you how important apps are, but Apple just showed their stats at the WWDC conference. So they have 1.5 million apps in the App Store, 1 billion apps downloaded from the App Store, but what I found very interesting was that they have 850 apps downloaded per second, and the average iPhone user has 119 apps on his phone. So obviously you see the lifestyle of people and lifestyle of drivers now, they've revolved absolutely around the smartphone, absolutely about the apps they use every day. And currently they're very disconnected from this experience while driving. One of the reasons why this is when you look at the time on the horizontal axis and look at all the cars we brought out at Ford. So this is our Fiesta series, and 2008 original new Fiesta, and we bought a refreshing in 2013. Same time frame for iPhones. Again, you see we don't match up with their pace. So we just cannot match up our infotainment systems in the automotive industry with the pace of the development in the smartphone industry, neither with hardware and much less with software. So we'll never be able to get a service out in a month or like in 2 months like young startups can do. So this is a very big problem for the automotive industry, and a lot of people think that the automotive industry is very slow and not very innovative because of this problem. Now, obviously, this is an app, this is Spotify, one of our partners, and the problem is we have to be able to get an interface like this, which is very bad while driving. You see you have small buttons, you have very small text, that is something which you cannot control while driving. So we have to get this to a design more like this or this. So on the right side you see Spotify running on one of our non-touch systems. In the middle it's a brand new system we're going to bring to the market this summer in the US called Sync 3, and this is our newest touchscreen system which has Spotify integrated. You see right away it has a much more, it has a feeling much more like an infotainment system. So you have big buttons, you have bigger text, and you have all the information you need without overloading the user. So now how are you able to actually bring an app from a state where it's unsafe to use while driving into a state where it's safe while driving and where your users can actually still use the app? Now, we created technology, I think we launched this in 2009, I think in the US actually, and we brought this to market and started up with non-touch systems, and it's called AppLink. So this technology is basically a way for any app developer to get into the car. We just heard our colleague from Google speaking, and we don't directly work with the smartphone system operators, we work with the app developers directly together. So what they get from us is basically a smartphone library or software library they can put into their smartphone app, and when they have the software library they can communicate with our system. So the idea behind that is, we heard this morning from Facebook, for them a car is nothing more than another screen, similar to a watch. So they call it variables. It's a big word, buzzword of the time. We call our things drivables. So basically, you sit in them, you use the screen to control an app that is still running on your smartphone. It's not running in the car. There's nothing you have to install in the car. There's nothing you have to download in the car. No settings to put into the car. It's all in your smartphone where you have it anyhow. All your favorite playlists are right there, so nothing to change. The only thing you have to do is basically come into the car, connect your phone to the infotainment system via Bluetooth or via USB, and you can get all the advantages of using your app safely while driving, while keeping your hands on the steering wheel and eyes on the road. So how do you do that? Obviously, everything stays in the car. Everything stays on the phone. But the phone can control different aspects of the car. It can control the voice recognition, which is very important, so you don't have to take off your hands off the steering wheel. You can control everything in the app via voice. You can use the center stack buttons. So we have buttons in the screen in the middle of the car where you actually are used to handle them. You are used to change your radio stations, you're used to handle your USB thumb drive or your CD player. So it's the same buttons, but now they don't communicate with the CD player, they communicate with the app on your phone. And obviously the very easy to reach steering wheel controls. But that's not all. Obviously, information input to the app is done one way, information output is also very important. So when you want to convey information to the user, for example, Spotify wants to tell you what current track is playing or what playlist you're listening to, you can use the display of the system of the car. And it's very big, and you can use it in a very bright environment, and it has all the certifications for in-car use. So you know that's safe while driving, it will not distract you too much. And at the same time, you can use the car's TTS system. So even if your app, for example, Spotify's app doesn't have a text-to-speech engine, but it can still talk with you while driving because it can utilize the very advanced text-to-speech engine that we have built into our cars. And third, something which is very interesting for app developers is they can actually connect through AppLink to the sensors in the car. Obviously not to all the sensors. I mean, we have thousands of sensors in the car. That would not be, you could not handle that as a developer, but we offer a subset of vehicle data to the developer so that the developer can actually look at the, for example, odometer or the GPS position of the driver and can recommend him, for example, fuel stations in the vicinity which are very cheap if he runs low on fuel. Now, one side note on this, obviously data privacy is very important, so no app can just access your data. We have a regulational system in the back end which actually looks at every single app, and we as Ford have to approve that an app can get access to GPS data, and then you as a driver actually will get a prompt like you're used to from your smartphone where it will say, do you want to share your GPS location with the app XYZ? And when you consent to that, and when it's your wish to give the app the information, then the app can get it. Obviously, another big advantage is the app can connect in the background, so you don't even have to have it started on your phone or something. So when you get into your car with your Android phone, the app will connect automatically in the background, and let's say you drive near Walmart or whatever grocery store, and there's a coupon for that store, the app might just notify you without even being started, without sitting in the background and just getting the GPS location data at the same time. So all of that is possible because it's an integrated system by an OEM. So because we're a car OEM, we can just have the connection sitting in the background. Now, what apps do we have? I told you AppLink is already launched since a couple of years, and we have partners in the Asian market, we have partners in the European market, we have partners in the North American market, so we're all over the world currently with our system. For Europe, obviously, which is very important, are the standard use cases, right? So entertainment, everybody wants to get entertained while driving. So music and other audio content is very important. We have partners there, like Spotify, one of our biggest partners. We just had a test drive in San Francisco with 50 Mustangs where you can experience Spotify on Sync 3. So they are a very big partner, and we see a lot of people using Spotify in a car in a safe way. On the other hand, audiobooks are a good use case, for example, to listen to while driving, but also information. And this is where AppLink really comes into play, because it's a very flexible set of APIs and communication between apps and the car. We can also realize other use cases, not only music. So one of our first partners in Germany was Die Welt, which is a newspaper. Obviously, you cannot read a newspaper while driving, but the next best thing is to listen to a newspaper while driving. So Die Welt actually speaks news in the morning and professional radio speakers read the news, and when you get into your car in the morning, you get a subset and the most important news from Die Welt, and you can listen to them while driving. If you don't like the news you're listening to, you just skip it with the steering wheel control. If you want to listen to another category, let's say you want to listen to sports or weather, you just switch to this category, and you don't have to basically listen to your radio news where 80% doesn't interest you anyhow. You just can very specifically go to the parts of the news that you're interested in. Other interesting use cases are Go Live. Go Live is one of our partner apps that provide you football scores. So let's say we are all big fans of FC Köln, obviously, and we want to know how the scores currently is. So when you get into your car and you drive around and you have goal installed, in a normal car, what you would have to do when Cologne scores another goal is your phone would vibrate, you would have to get your phone out of your purse or of your jacket, look at the phone, look at the score, and then see what happened. Now what happens in a Ford Uplink enabled car is that obviously the Go Live app is connected to the infotainment system, so even you're listening to radio or your favorite CD, as soon as a goal happens on that game, the app will push this to the infotainment system, and it will pop up in the infotainment system right on top of your radio as a live news. Pushed from the app. So you see that we have a big advantage there because they can be connected in the background. You don't have actively to connect them. You can get the news you need at the point in time you need wherever you are. Another big use case, as I said before, is GPS and location-based data. Glimpse, you might know them, it's a service where you can send your location to another person. And another example for this is when you try to get to a specific point in a city with a lot of one-way streets and very complicated navigation, and you might not even have a navigation on board. What you could do via the smartphone application that's connected to the Ford Uplink system is you could actually send your position to another person via voice without putting your hands off the steering wheel or your eyes off the road, and this person could then basically call you, see you on the map, and tell you where to go. The interesting part about this is obviously glimpse. Not only you can send a glimpse without using your hands and without taking your hands off the steering wheel, but you could also have glimpse get the GPS data from the car, so you don't need as much battery from your phone as you would do if the phone would get the GPS data. Plus, obviously, car's GPS data is much more accurate than the GPS data that you can get out of a smartphone, especially inside a car. But obviously, these are all relatively old school use cases. I mean, this is something we can dream up. There's a lot of stuff that the automotive industry doesn't come up with. I mean, we know that we have a limited view on this. We work with this every day. So we are open to a whole range of innovation and a whole range of new use cases. So we obviously try to engage the app community and the app developer community. So we have hackathons, for example, like this October in Tel Aviv. We just announced that we're going to have a hackathon there where we invite people to just bring their apps and bring their new ideas into the room, have 24 hours with us, and try out what we can do with a car and with the integration into a car. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is innovative use cases in another way, because obviously you cannot do everything in a car. Now, you're driving, and there are different use cases that we don't want to allow while driving. So we have a security mechanism in place in the back end, and this is run by Ford. So only apps that are actually checked by Ford and allowed by Ford from a driver distraction standpoint are okay to go into a car and will work with your car. So we have a background system in place to control that, and we have 3 categories of apps that we don't like in a car, which is not a surprise to anybody, I assume. Moving images, videos are not a good idea while driving. So you should not watch the latest N24 news channel while you're driving around the car. So no moving videos. Then we have not a lot of text. So I talked before about Die Welt as a newspaper. We obviously didn't want to bring the newspaper itself into the car. We brought it as a spoken version. And so no long text in the car. And third, there's not going to be any gaming. Like playing Flappy Bird while driving is probably also not a good idea. So there's no gaming. So these 3 categories are basically things that we don't want to allow, at least not in such an early stage of development of this technology. So everything is in place so that the driver stays safe and doesn't use everything in a car. As much as people say I just want to use my smartphone while driving, obviously not everything that is on your smartphone is suitable while driving. Now, this was the side of the user, right? What apps does he use? What use cases does he have? Very quick outlook on what we have currently on the web for developers, because that is another thing where automotive industry is not really good at, engaging with developers. We basically obviously looked at other pages like developer.apple.com, developer.android.com and similar pages, and created developer.ford.com to give all the data a developer would need. So we have software libraries, we have reference guides, we have getting started guides, we have technical hardware documentation on there, simulators, we have best practices, assets, all you need to develop for an app link is on the web. And so you don't have to engage, or it's not complicated to engage with Ford to develop for us. You just go online, sign up and get your stuff and then integrate into your app and show us what you did. Now, one thing I said before, I wanted to talk about open source, and I want to talk about how we solve a problem in the industry, because everything we did is great, right? I love AppLink and it's great, but it will never be successful if we only have it as a Ford solution. The problem with a sole Ford solution is that app developers don't have time to develop for Android, for car brands that are different from Ford, like VW, BMW, whatever other brands. So we need a standard in the automotive industry that app developers can look at and then say, when I develop my app for this standard, I can actually connect it to a range of different car makers, so I don't have to duplicate my effort. Because the one thing startups and innovative companies don't have is actually time and money. These are the two things they cannot afford. So we need a standard. We decided in 2013 as Ford to open source our IP. So this is something which is very unusual for the automotive industry. We took AppLink, took the source code, put it online on the web, and we gave it to a group called Genevi. They handle open source standards in the automotive industry, and one of their standards now is Smart Device Link, our open source integration of AppLink. And as you can see, as you can see, we already have a couple of partners on board. So we have Toyota there, and we just had an announcement a couple of weeks ago, that Toyota is going to look at Smart Device Link, which is industry speak for they started having their engineers working it. And you have the idea behind this is that Toyota can have this technology, Ford can have this technology, and every other OEM that wants it can have the technology, so that in the end the app developer can easily develop for this technology because they only have to do it once, and more drivers can be kept safe while driving because they have more apps available. If you don't have an app that is available for this infotainment system and to connect to the infotainment system, it doesn't help the driver at all. So we also follow our words. So you see, this is the GitHub page. I'm not sure, it's a bit technical for everybody, for you guys who know what GitHub is. It's a code repository where you can put software. And we have a Smart Device Link page on GitHub. So you can just go there, download it, put it into your car, or put it onto your Ubuntu, or wherever you want to try it out, and just compile it and use it. So everything is online, everything is there. We are totally open in working with that in the industry. Now, to close the talk a bit down, I just wanted to reiterate the benefits of connecting your apps or connecting apps into the car. And the benefits fall into three different categories. So first of all, we have our customers. Obviously, our customers are very used to a fast pace of innovation nowadays. They're very used to apps that come up in 1 month and they take over the whole experience and they use it every day. They could not have thought about this use case 2 months ago, but now they want to have it everywhere. So for our customers, they can always stay connected, even while driving. And also, they can control their data, which is very important. So when you give data out, when an app gets data from your car, you will never give that data out without your consent. So you will always have to say, yes, I want to give that data. We, obviously, as an OEM, also have advantages from this because we can deliver innovation to the driver, and we can adopt quickly. You could never think that as Ford, as a company, can deliver a service to their customers which is brand new and only 2 months on the market. But with Smart Device Link and with AppLink, we're able to have this app connect to the car, and the user can use that app safely while driving in a matter of months and not in a matter of years, which would be the traditional approach when you put it into the car. And thirdly, obviously, our app partners also have advantages from the whole integration, because traditionally, when you are an app company, you can stay connected with your customer while he's moving to his car, while he's at work, while he's at home, but you cannot stay connected to your customer while he's driving. So Spotify, for example, was not a traditional use case while driving, because it's just too complicated to use while you drive. But with AppLink and with technologies that connect apps to the car, you can get access to a very high volume platform to a lot of users that use their car daily while driving. And the average commute, I looked at the other day, is around like 30 minutes. So you have a lot of time that you can spend with your customer while driving that you would normally not be able to do. And on the other hand, smart devicing and AppLink is an open source solution. So when people come and work with AppLink, they can be pretty sure that in the future there's going to be other car manufacturers that adapt it, where your app is already compatible without even doing anything. So you see that this is a win-win-win situation, but on the other hand, every company on every part of these has to be also on the scene, and it's very irritating, the music. I have 9 seconds after that. Yes. And then, so everybody has to be part of the whole thing. So there has to be somebody, the integration has to be in the car, in the app, and there has to be a user to use it. If that doesn't happen, the whole system won't work. And now the time is blinking, so I'm going to close the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Timur. That was really funny to see, because you're getting faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Okay. Just tell him it's on the clock. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions from you? Okay.
All the way in the back, I think.
Yeah?
Or he's waving.
No, okay.
And sorry for talking fast. This talk is normally 45 minutes. I cut it to 20 minutes. I was like, I have to get through.
Normally you don't say press a 45-minute text speech in 20 minutes. Yeah. But I don't know whether I missed it, but it's already a question.
I'm ready. The question is, if the apps are just synchronized from the mobile phone, is there any plan to get some money from it? For example, to sell the apps on from your car and generate some money with it, or what's the plan? Just for the comfort of the customer.
Sure. So our plan is to sell cars, usually. We can only do that if it appeals to our customers, so if our customers like our cars. So AppLink is one of the technologies that's a selling point and a unique selling proposition for Fords and for cars in general. So no, we actually don't sell apps, and we don't have like a specific Ford app store that we want to use. So when you guys have Spotify on your phone, you already have an AppLink enabled app on your phone. So it's in the main phone, it's a main app library, so there's no specific thing you have to download or have to pay for. So it's all free. When you get sync in Europe, sync with AppLink and emergency assistance, you get AppLink with it.
Other questions? No? You told us, or I just saw, perhaps I missed it, what is not allowed. Not much text, not movies or whatever, but what will I use, or what would I use in my car except for things like that?
So, for example, you would be interested in the news in the morning. And I talked quickly about Die Welt, one of our partners. Now, obviously, you cannot read the newspaper. Long text is not allowed in our apps. So, in the end, you can get the same media, the same content in a different format. So, you get the news article read out in your car. Okay. So, you can basically read your news and have somebody read it out to you. And the advantage of a newspaper is you don't have to read every single article in the newspaper. But for example, when you're listening to the radio, you have to listen to a 3-minute or 5-minute or 10-minute newscast, which takes a very long time, and you cannot skip anything. When they talk for 20 minutes about football and you're not at all interested in sports, then you cannot skip it. Also, you have to wait for the 30-minute mark every hour to get the news. Now, when using technology like AppLink and apps, you don't actually have to wait. You can just start the app, listen to a category that you're interested in, and you can have that content.
Okay, but when I think of all these things, you need, for app technologies, much more data volume than right now. So how can customers handle this with the data restrictions we have today and we can be supplied with?
Yeah, that's obviously a problem. I mean, going into the future, we're going to have more and more data available for our mobile phones and for our smartphones, and it will be less of a problem in the future. And currently we're working with app partners, and we try to bring use cases into the car that use less data, but also use technologies like pre-downloading. So, for example, again, I go back to the Welt because it's a nice example for all of this. The audio content is not super big, but you can notice it from a size perspective. So what you can do is actually you can go download it in the morning before you drive in your Wi-Fi, and when you get into a car, you just listen to the pre-downloaded audio files, so you don't have to use your mobile data.
Okay, right now. How dependent are we in Germany, or how dependent is Germany's connected, world-connected car industry from Silicon Valley?
Dependent, I wouldn't say. We are connected with the whole world nowadays. I mean, the European car industry has to look after trends as every other industry. So you look at smartphones, obviously a very big trend, originated mainly as software-wise from Silicon Valley. So there's no need to be dependent on anything, but you have to stay connected and just have to stay in touch with parts of the world like Silicon Valley, where a lot of innovation happens and where a lot of new use cases come up.
Okay. Other question? Okay.
Could you please briefly explain how you differentiate or cooperate with the Google Open Auto Alliance?
Yeah, sure. So generally it's really two different things, right? So when you look at Android Auto or look at Apple's CarPlay, this is a very tight integration of the smartphone into the car. So there's just basically the screen of the smartphone goes onto the car, and you don't have advantages like you cannot use your climate control in a car while being in the CarPlay experience. And obviously, when you want to listen to radio and you still want to get background notifications from apps, it's a big problem. So we think that the car integration from an OEM or the app integration from an OEM has a lot of advantages. Another one is obviously data privacy, because when you have an integration like the Apple's integration, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you effectively give your data to Android or to Google or to Apple. And then they give it to the app, so you have somebody in between. With an OEM solution, you actually give your data directly to the app and only if you consent to it. So there's nothing that can diverge to other sources.